Welcome, fans, to a very special edition of the Cheap Heat Productions Pro Wrestling Podcast. My name is Jack Kilby at No Gimmicks Guy on the socials. I'm here today to interview a man that actually was on my bucket list to interview because he was a major star in the territories, and we're talking Central States, the NWA, AWA. We're going to get into them all. You name a classic territory, and chances are this man worked it and really left a mark. I am talking about the man known as the Timekeeper, Mr. Mike George. Mike, welcome to the show, sir.
Well, thank you. It's nice to be here.
I guess we should start off with a fan, actually, when I announced that you would be coming on the show, asked about your experience working in Japan in a six-man against Hulk Hogan about 1983, and with the news of his very untimely passing yesterday, I figured I'd start off by asking that if you have any memories of working him there, or any other general memories working the Hulkster.
Well, that's the first time I met Hogan. It was, I never seen him since then, but basically it was a good match. It was no problem. I remember going to see him working out. He was there with me with Black Holly when we went to the gym to work out one day. He liked running that tape up again when he was with the Sylvester Stallone. He liked playing on the bus. He liked to play that a lot.
Do you?
Yeah, he was a nice guy.
Did you see? Did you have any idea at that time that he would turn into the one of the greatest to ever do it?
Well, I remember that they were talking. We were at the gym. They were talking. He said he's got an opportunity to go to work. He to go up there to work up there. And he said, "You ought to go for it." He said, "I'll go for it." And when he was up there, he got just the right place, right time, and he had the right time.
Absolutely. Well, definitely a shock to the wrestling world, and hopefully his family are doing well. Speaking of Hogan, though, I have to rewind the tape a bit. When you debuted in 1969, you trained under, according to my research, legends like Harley Race and Hiro Matsuda, who, of course, famously broke Hogan's leg in the training process. I guess it's a logical place to start to ask you what inspired you to pursue professional wrestling, and how was your training process under such iconic figures? Was it as physically demanding and intense as the historians like to point out?
Well, basically, they were pretty easy on me as far as I was concerned. It was 72 is when I started, not 69.
Okay.
And St. Joe up here, St. Joe, Missouri is where I started at. You had to find somebody to work out with you. It wasn't easy. And I kept on good up there at the time. And then Ed Wisconsin was one of my guys that I went to school with, and he started to get in, and he got a bad car accident. They took his spleen and broke his leg, and said he'd never be able to walk again. And basically, I called him up, and I said, "Do you want to try to work out again?" And he said he'd try. We working out. That's how me we go up there and kill each other. And auditorium up there, the old auditorium, just basically abused us. We knee drops. He got me once. I got his ear real good one time. Cauliflowered it up. But it was a learning experience. Harley was he liked that.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. Was that a particular amount of pressure to be, being a native of St. Joseph, Missouri? Was it more pressure for you to start off in your home region to hone your craft?
Well, now they want to send you out first. That was the whole thing. I went to Georgia first. Judy Hamilton got me over there in Atlanta. And then they sent me down to Florida, and I worked out. We'd go there in the sportatorium maybe, like once or twice a week. We'd go in there and work out in that place.
Mm-hmm,
But
mm-hmm.
it was a learning experience. We all had our times in there to learn how to do stuff. And basically, if you weren't absent when Gordon Jr. was there at the time, and a lot of us just brand new starting it all the same time. It was good. Good experience. Good experience.
You became, a central figure in, no pun intended, Central States, and won the NWA Heavyweight Championship, Central States Championship, 5 times. I believe your first win was against Bulldog Bob Brown. How did that first championship shape your career?
Well, that was right in front of me, right here. I'm looking at it. When I got scared, so much that you win it, you better take a picture.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
So that was the first time I ever had a belt. And I was pretty young then too, but it was good. Bob Brown was he was hard to work with, but he was easy to a certain extent. So he was so established here. He didn't get over him very easy, that's for sure. He had to be able to go through. We went through a lot of our matches with that man too, though.
Mm-hmm.
It was an experience. Yeah.
You mentioned that he had a bit of a reputation for being difficult in terms of, I guess, with what he wanted out of a match, and sometimes he was criticized for not giving a lot, and often, I guess in later years, thinking about his time in Stampede that I saw growing up, they would say his work was subpar. Did you have a difficult time with that aspect of working with Bob?
No, I didn't. No, basically he would lead me through it, and basically when it was time for me to get my in, I got in. He wouldn't stop me. You could slam that man, and he'd bounce up. It was simply amazing the way nobody had no trouble with him at all. I enjoyed working with him. He was the only one that he put me. He beat me up. I beat him up. He did a lot of it. We had full rope matches. We had you name it. We had it up there in St. Joe and different areas all over the Central States. There was no place I worked in almost every town, I'd say, up here at least 30, 40 times.
Mm-hmm. And certainly drew a lot of money.
Yeah, but there's not as much other places. But still, Kansas City was a hard territory. Really, if people didn't believe in you, you didn't go very far.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. A lot of historians have commented on that. Plus, a lot of complaints about the payoffs. But this kind of leads into a fan on social media who asked a question about your memories of working for the legendary promoter Sam Muchnick.
I worked with him, but not very often. Most of the time, it was Connor was doing the booking over there at the time. But if you were a St. Joe boy, you didn't really get to go to St. Louis that much. But I did my time over there, and I did pretty decent though. A couple times with Bob Sweet and me tagged up against the Von Erichs over there on TV. We had a barn burner on TV. I remember that one well. And Pat would referee every once in a while. Yeah, it was different. Sam I never had really any dealings with. He was just the front man, basically, as far as I was concerned. Mine was Geigel and O'Connor and Harley at the time.
Mm-hmm.
They were the ones that bought the territory out.
I've got a question, of course, about when you were the WWA World Champion and defended the title at the Von Erich Parade of Champions in Irving, Texas. But I might as well ask you, since you brought it up, your experience working with the Von Erich boys in general. We've heard, a lot in terms of, being, how do you say, in conditions other than normal at times, or Kevin being very, very stiff. What was your experience?
My experience was when I went down to I worked with the new boy, basically. The one I worked with in Louisiana a lot. Forgive me, I can't remember his name. He was a good-looking kid.
David?
And, they said I gave him too much.
Mm-hmm.
But basically, as I was always taught it, if you eat him up, who'd you beat?
Mm-hmm.
And that was what I heard about it. People told me about that. They weren't happy with my performance. Basically, they thought I'd eat the guy up and spit him out, and that wasn't me. You got to beat somebody. If you weren't beating somebody, it wasn't safe. You had to prove yourself. And but the Von Erich, I worked with them quite a few different places. David was probably the best one. Mm-hmm. And then came Kerry. That's the one with the foot, right?
Yeah. He was the one who had it amputated. Yes.
He was. What a body on that guy!
Amazing.
What a body. Yeah. I just so sad about that family. Just everything happened to him. It seems like it's just luck wasn't there. It was. They were over big time in Texas. My God. Oh yeah. They were, but they were easy to work with. Which you can get a long time in the ring with them.
Did you find Kevin to be I don't want to say reckless, but really, really stiff, I guess is the best way to put it?
Well, they weren't stiff to me, but he's reckless. Let's put it that way.
Mm-hmm.
He about cold cocked Sato in St. Louis there one time. He went for an elbow drop on him, and he said the wind blew him. Boy, about tore up Sato's face. I remember well. That's what he told us. Yeah, the wind blew him when he was up in the air. But that's a true story. True story on that one. But yeah, we had a good deal on TV too, though. With even Dad got involved in that with Sweet Dan and me. We were both heels up there, and a lot of things, bad things about Sweet Dan, but still in the ring, I did a lot of stuff the way he did it, and I liked his work too because he was very believable. He was all over the Mid South, down there when I was there too. And he was the first one I was deal with in the tag matches too down there. But I place I went, I never had problems. I guess I was lucky and nobody really tried me.
Well, yeah, I could see why. You were an absolute powerhouse. Even back in that era, you obviously were a legit strong guy. So that doesn't surprise me at all. Historians often talk about the electric atmosphere in the Kiel Auditorium and how hot the fans were for the Wrestling at the Chase TV program. I know you worked both a number of times and were on TV on that program a number of times. What memories do you have of the Kiel and that program?
The Kiel was a big, hard ring. Let's put it that way. He went to the top rope and all of a sudden to come off, he said, "What am I doing up here?" The ring was just like concrete. And he did his stop off that that ring was hard and big. It seemed like when you do a crisscross, you run forever.
Mm-hmm.
You didn't do many of those. You're blowed up big time afterwards.
Mm-hmm.
And the people, those people were very responsive. Very responsive. They were a wrestling crowd over there in St. Louis. No doubt about that. And they believed in you. That which we were hard. We were stiff to work with. No doubt about that. But the stiffer you are, the more believable and more respect you got from the people. And now the guys they do they're built too loose sometimes. That really upsets me.
Yeah,
I believe the hard way basically, but that way.
Yeah,
I worked with her that way too.
I'm going to ask you about modern wrestling, but I 100% agree with you there. You had quite a few notable tag team runs, including winning the NWA World Tag Team Championship, the Central States version with a great wrestler, Jim Brunzell, amongst others. How did you adapt your style to tag wrestling, and what partnership would you say, if you could narrow it down, was your favorite?
Oh, Brunzell was the first, and it was good. We wrestled a lot.
Mm-hmm.
Oh my! I laughed so hard and Kirby, but we had great matches. It was good stuff. We just wanted to just like legs and almost take a backflip and I roll backwards like him. I run right by one side, run by the other side, and he's standing there and I'm playing the slide between the legs. It was, you should have seen it. It was good,
Mm-hmm.
but it was, I never laughed so hard as everybody else did to it. People believed it too, as I did too. I broke my leg one time doing slide two one time. And, Kirby, I think Kirby was one of the ones I enjoyed with. I spent a run down in Florida too. Roger Kirby. Mm-hmm. What a bump guy with back. My God. I never seen anybody go so high and fly so long.
Mm. Very impressive. Was Al Hayes as big a ribber in the back in the locker room as people have pointed out? Did you ever experience any of those?
Well, no. But most of the time, he had front face lock. He would do an arm over and grab the other arm and twist it. I did that on him a lot, but he did it on me.
Mm-hmm.
But he was one trip with him and Brunzell, we had to ride someplace out in and we rode back with him at 55 mile an hour. But he talked to us all the way about talking and everything, how to create an interview. And he was very knowledgeable of what he did. He was good at it. He was good. And he could hurt you too if he had to.
Mm-hmm.
But so bad last so arthritis so bad into too bad. Nice guy. Good and nice guy.
Mm-hmm. Moving on.
With me, I put up with them.
Yeah, well, that's something that's refreshing, considering how negative everyone is, it seems, in the modern era. Moving on to your run in the Pacific Northwest for promoter Don Owens. That's a particularly interesting territory to me. We've heard, a lot about what a great promoter and man Don Owens was. What was your experience working up there, and do you have a particular highlight of this run?
I quit the business for a while. I decided to get back into the old city to go out there to work with in Oklahoma. Out there and first I wanted to go, and then I got there, it just like it was different. I mean, it was with he was out there, he was good, but the same way with the my mind just went poof.
Ventura?
Mm-hmm. Jesse was there. What a talker he was. He could do it. It was unreal. And Snuka, that's the first time I saw him jump off the top rope, off the top of a ring. I was amazed and he was able to walk afterwards.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it was amazing to see all kinds of things out there. And the Sheik, Cosgrove was there. Yeah, he was there too. It was good. And Jerry we work out. We spent a lot of time in the gym working out all the time too.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That goes back to
Shout out to Jerry Oates too.
Beaverton, what a town.
Mm-hmm. The in terms of promoters, did you all of the legends that I've had the pleasure of interviewing have rated Don Owens very highly. Was that your experience as well?
I can't say that. It was a very short time. For a while, it seemed like everybody was leaving.
Mm-hmm.
And that's when I called up Grizzly Smith down there in Louisiana and Boston. I went back down there. I was there 3 months out there, and I said, "This isn't for me."
Mm-hmm.
The money wasn't there. I wasn't happy with the way things were going, so I just figured either that, if you were there, you went 20 minutes through. Everything was 20 minutes through. No way.
Mm-hmm.
So it was time for me to go. So I was glad to get out of there.
Fair enough.
Some people may have good things to say about it, but I didn't.
Well, everybody has a different experience. Mm-hmm. A fan on social media wanted me to ask you about this is an interesting one, your experience working Lou Thez in 1981.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, that was great. I enjoyed the challenge. There was the old school.
Mm-hmm.
And, that's still the way. And I still halfway work that way, too. But there weren't very many high spots. You didn't go up and down like the guys have done doing now or like that. He gave you a suplex, you better touch that neck. You're going to break him when he drops you. It was ball back to back, you might say.
Mm-hmm.
He'd take back home and knock you about out a couple backs. Springfield, Missouri, that's where you had I told the people, I said, would you please quit hard right now? Please, I said, he's killing me. But I first met him in Japan. That's where I first met Lou Thez. And he was, there's the man that had the records, I believe him.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
He looked good at that, but even then, he still looked good.
Mm-hmm.
He always did. Always good. He carried himself well.
Yeah, that's quite the notch on the resume. You touched on the fact that after Portland, you went to Mid-South Wrestling. I want to get into that a little bit in terms of working for Cowboy Bill Watts, and I noticed that you also wrestled him for the North
Oh, yeah.
American title. Can you talk about that for a minute?
Yeah. Yeah. Put the fear, but I was end up a knee drop on him. I get the squeal real loud on that one. but he was stiff. I mean, but that's the way we all worked back then. He worked very snug, believable. And the thing was, I enjoyed it. Basically, he didn't like me sometimes, but that's at the point he tried to push me to do it better, but I guess I wasn't ready. I wasn't ready for all the bullshit, you might say. That wasn't me. I wanted to be as truthful as I could, and I wish I would have done different, but that's too late now. But I know I would have. But it was good because I worked with a lot of different people down there, and a lot of people come through there too. A lot of people. You name it, they were there almost. Yeah.
Yeah, it was a tremendous territory. You teamed with the late great Junkyard Dog to win the Mid-South Tag Team Championship, and I remember watching on tape your matches with Bob Orton Jr. and Paul Orndorff. You seem to have a hell of a rivalry with them. Can you talk about teaming with JYD and that program?
When we go to the ring, it was just like I couldn't believe the people were just screaming, hollering, chanting that. You know, as we go and stomping that. But I remember the first night I teamed up with him, and we're in New Orleans downtown. And my God, I walked out there, the lights were dimmed down, and they were all out there chanting, "My, oh my!" I said, "Boy, am I glad I'm on his side." It was phenomenal. It really was. And yeah, I still remember the will go through my body like I'm here. I'm really here. And it's getting over that much. It was great. It really was. So and the guys we worked with, they were all top people. Orndorff and Orton Jr. and the guy from Florida. He went to the Olympics to. He's still alive. That came on me.
Jeez.
Bob Roop.
Bob Roop. Okay, yeah. Sorry, I was drawing a blank too. Yeah, Roop for sure.
Bob Roop. He was the real deal. That's where I liked working with him, though. He was a real dude. And the Samoan, this is the last time I went to New York for an autographing session up there. And this is the first time I went there. And there was only one of them still alive. I didn't get a chance to go over and talk to him. I didn't realize they were there. I wish I would have, because I had a lot of matches with him. One time the eye popped out. The guy just took his eye and pushed it back in. I looked at the other monitor meter in the car. I said, I think it's time to go home.
Wow. Wow.
Yeah. They had great matches there. That was in Baton Rouge. No, that was in Monroe. And I was all four in the ring at one time. Oh, yeah.
Wow, that's tremendous. Who came up with the idea to put you and Dog together?
I really don't know. See, when I left down there one time, I went to Louisiana, over to for a short time. My mother-in-law, my wife went home, and I stayed here for a while, and they just started to do something with me there, and that's when I told them. I said, I got to go back home. I went back to St. Joe, and then dropped her off for a while. Then I came down. Yeah, went back to Oklahoma but I worked up the northern part of it. I wasn't down the south. And we all had a walkout up there it was in Oklahoma City. And I called up the Grizzly and them, and I talked to them, and they said, "Yeah, come on down." And they teamed me right up with the dog. I was a heel up there in Louisiana. Up there in northern Oklahoma, up there in Oklahoma City, Tulsa, and all that area, and going over into Arkansas too. And they just come in. Suddenly, he was still working with the Samoans. And I said, "Let me." From there on, I was the baby face again. That's how that started down there. That was on Shreveport TV.
Yeah, very, very memorable stuff. In '83, you had a run in the Mid-Atlantic territory, and I noted that you worked Gene Anderson a few times in tags. I do a podcast with Brad Anderson, his son, and with
really?
yeah, it's called Brad Anderson's Old School Family Legacy, and we look at families in the business and a lot of his classic memories. So of course I had to ask you about your memories of working Gene in the ring and outside of it.
Yeah, well, they were just giving me like a little bit of a push there, and they said Ole was up there. They said Ole. I said, I got back there and beat the guy real quick, and boom, 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 shoulder breaker, and it was my son going in, turning into a heel, and then that's when the wife, mother had the stroke and everything else. I went right then. I went home, but I was just getting a chance to do something, and I took the right way to go.
Did you did you Ole had the book at that time, correct?
Yes, he did. Yeah. Ole was the booker.
How did you find him to work for, with, etc.?
Well, it wasn't that much. I was more, I think, I think we get over there in Atlanta too. Yeah. And Jody Hamilton. And there's another St. Joe boy. And it was just this. And the deal I did on TV, and then I worked with, I was at like a tank over there with, Louis Gillette. When I heard my mind, I remember him a little bit. Louis Gillette on a fill-in with him against Stan Hansen. A little spot show, not spot show, but a TV over there. Rocking, I hit him with a rock, it wouldn't make no difference. He walked coming. But I remember him all the time ago in Louisiana too. Yeah. I did it with him one time. I ran by him, went scoop slam, he was, blind as bad. But I ran by him on the other side, he was like, "What?" He didn't know what it is. I came back to his right the next time as I went back across the ring. Then he caught me slamming me down. But it was funny to watch look on his face. There he stood there like you're ready to hit me. And the scoop slam, and I ran by him on the other side. Yeah, I remember that one when Jerry Oates, we talked about that. I said, "Yeah, watch this."
That's tremendous.
No, it's funny.
Another smart fan picked this out of your history, and he asked about in '85 you worked the young team of American Starship, Scott Hall, and Dan Spivey, who I interviewed about a month ago a few times. What were your memories of these matches? I'm assuming you were calling it all and being the ring general, so to speak.
They were the Eagles. Big, strong guys, both of them. I got out of the business a little bit. Something I go in there to fill in or whatever in St. Joe. I was selling cars up there. I was making a good living selling cars. I sold 67 cars in 1 month.
Holy cow.
Okay, I'll go up there. About the story with Shawn Michaels and his partner,
Marty Jannetty.
Marty Jannetty, yeah. He beat him up.
Were you there for that?
Yeah, the weekend.
Mm.
They told me about it, and I would have liked to have been there. I really would have. Yeah, but you just see him laying on that bench up there, just relaxing, and he just came in and just dropped him.
Wow.
Wrong thing to do. Big, strong guys.
Mm-hmm.
That's the story.
You later had a run with the rebranded, I guess you would call it, Universal Wrestling Federation in '86 Mid-South. I was a fan of your tag matches with Jack Victory against the Fantastics. Do you have any memories of those?
They were working hard. They wanted me to come back in. One guy got in the car accident real bad. And that's when I flew out that day. I remember flying down there. The little small plane, boy. Didn't think I almost didn't make it to the town because the weather was so bad. Met me there at the airport, Shreveport, took me in there.
Mm-hmm.
And I enjoyed it. That's where I went to my first matches with him. That's with the guy from my, there we go. There goes to my mind again just for a second. Art Cruz.
Oh, yes.
Cruz, I talked to him a lot. And Art's a good guy, but he's got Alzheimer's now.
Oh,
and
no.
There's him out there in Portland. But, yeah, I talked to him all the time. Well, I tried to. He remembers me. We had a good time. And that's why I went back. We were together for a short time now. And then they put me up with one you said.
Jack Victory?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Here's the guy with the hair was different.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. But good time. But I was the old school, and I wasn't really happy with the way things. It just wasn't the same. Of course, as you get older, things change. I didn't really want to. Getting older, I didn't want to.
Mm-hmm.
Then got me to send me to a nurse right there, right down there. I went over there. That's when I first met the Road Warriors, and this when Flair was over there. He was over there, and worked with one deal, one tag match over there, and one of the shows over there in Japan. Good, but they got our pretty good one night. They went with them and got pretty well whooped. And he got back in there and shaved all his eyebrows off.
The classic Freebird rib, right?
Oh, yeah. So, if you look in the mirror lately, we found out. We were on the bus. They put on the bus and away we go. So, yeah. I hope Art's okay. I really do. He was a nice guy, good kid. And we spent a lot of time traveling down there and other stuff too. Yeah, but he gets back. Also got me back to Japan that last year. I went maybe one or two more.
Mm-hmm.
Now, what the, he looked at me in Japan. We were at the gym working out. He says, you know, he says, if I get as old as you, I hope I look as good as you.
Oh, that's a compliment.
He didn't make it.
No, unfortunately. Unfortunately,
No.
an animal died young too.
Yeah, it's hard to believe. You know, I guess I'm lucky to still be around 77.
Mm-hmm.
I made that.
Mm-hmm. Well, you also were the first and last WWA World Heavyweight Champion in '88 after Central States split from the NWA. I remember this distinctly because it got a lot of coverage in the aftermags and others. What was it like being the face of that that company? And do you have any recollection of the factors that led to the split? I think I know what the answer is because the NWA was a withering entity at that point.
They went to New York basically, and just everything changed. Everything changed. And Geico was still trying to hang on. He lost a couple 100,000 trying to hang on to stuff, and it just there's no way you could keep on to it because it run like the old school. And it wasn't done anymore.
Mm.
They had too many whistles and bells and everything else on New York up there. There's no way to compete. Not on a older old school type deal. It just people wanted to see the flag, and you wasn't going to get the flag with on them. But it was still Harley. He left his way out of it. He knew he had to go to New York to make money, and that's what he did. He had to. And I was probably I guess I was too old really right then. I pretty well. I just lost my desire after a while. You lose your push for a long time, but then that was it. Yeah.
Well,
it was good. I enjoyed my life in wrestling. It was great to be recognized. That was one of my things. That at least all else that gets done with all this, at least people remember me.
Mm-hmm.
And like I work at 7th Street Casino, I work in security, and right down the street, one block is the old Memorial Hall where we used to wrestle at, and people still recognize me and remember me and everything else. It's kind of nice. It's nice.
Mm-hmm. Well, you had a heck of a career. Isn't it ironic though that the transition from the old school business to the WWF model with all the Flash and Zabada today, the modern WWE has very little resemblance to that even. So I guess it's true that the business is always evolving. It's a question of whether it's for the better or not, and from where a lot of us sit, it's not.
Yeah, all the big guys with the bodies and stuff, all now they're like 180 pounders to look like.
Mm-hmm.
But for me, I'm still too heavy. I try to lose weight, but it don't work.
Mm-hmm.
But I used to lift heavy too, though. These guys, they may be pretty good shape, but some of the stuff I wouldn't even think about. Jumping on, missing that ropes completely and diving over. And yeah, we were up there in St. Joe learning things, and he said, "Why don't you stand on the outside right there? He said, I'm gonna run over there, over the ropes, come back. I'm gonna jump over the top, and now catch me." I said, "Yeah, okay." He ran over and jumped. I said, "Boom." He said, "You didn't get me. You think I'm gonna do that?"
Oh.
I have no way in the world. Those guys, they do that, but they jump over backwards, and you see through that stuff. You don't do things like that.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, And then the guys get hurt. They're most of the new guys that are in on business for a short time and they're out.
Yeah.
What happened to?
Yeah.
They're hurt themselves. They get hurt. I see a lot of them, but I watched one of those deals on the Facebook and stuff. They got one guy that did something. The guy dropped down. The guy missed all the ropes going through it, missed it, and you heard him squeal as he went out. It was the best thing I've ever seen in my whole life. I about laughed myself silly, but I knew he got hurt. He went right smack into the railing out there. Oh man, flew all the way, missed ropes, missed everything. Nobody there to catch him. And as they went, boy, had to throw something. And you see some of these guys that they're trying all this stupid stuff, and it just they're out of business. You've hurt yourself so bad. You get hurt enough anyway, but let alone something like that you don't need. Like I used to do a deal off. I had my sharp down there in Louisiana. I went to the top rope to come off top, and he's just supposed to slam me off top, give me the big bump and everything else. He drove me first straight down to the ring. Right into the ring, drove me down.
Oh my!
Johnny Walker shooting his ass out big time, one side down the other. He's coming back. He said, "What you do?" The referee's come over, looked at him. He said, "You okay?" I said, "Get that sucker away from me." Jerry was the referee at the time. Made a lot of Jerry. We made a lot of talk about the different matches we had and what I should do. He made my mind up what I did, though, too. He helped. I missed him.
Yeah, I think you nailed it on the head there. It's a question of believability that's so missing in the modern era, so to speak.
Yeah.
We talked about your memories working with the Von Erichs, but you defended the world title at the Parade of Champions in '88 against Jeff Rates. What that was the that was the last event of its name, and certainly the company had seen better days. What are your recollections of that experience?
Trying to do something different. We had double cages, I think it was, or triple cages. Whenever we had to go one up to another one, and then up to oh man, it tried too much. What happened to the old cage match? What happened to that? You know, when you climb out of the cage match to win it, there's a last man standing in there was the one that won. Not got over the top rope and out. That's like a chicken wing out. You know, I just did that. But it was true. That's what they said down there. I was too easy on the guy.
Wow.
I beat somebody. If you didn't beat somebody, you just got to destroy him. That's not the name of the game. But they wanted. That's not what I wanted to do. And I did my own deal. Yeah. But, yeah. I worked with him a lot down in Louisiana. So he'd come over and he was basically a job boy over for us in Louisiana. Yeah, but a good kid. Good kid. Remember him well.
That world class at the time had seen such highs and then it seen such lows. Did you see any evidence of the I guess the chaos in the office and the event promotion in general when you're at that event?
A little bit. You know, it was a lot of hostility. Basically, the kids got the push. That was the only one who got the push. If you weren't a heel, you didn't get a chance. You didn't get a chance at all. But I guess if I would have just eat that guy's lunch out there and went on with it, but that just wasn't me. I thought but the kids' interviews, it seemed like they were always trying to be not association with the fans, saying how much we appreciate having them there, we enjoy, we do what they do for you. I was was going to be. Omar used to do that stuff all the time, but how you appreciate the fans. They didn't seem like they wanted to do that. They wanted to be the tough stuff. That just wasn't. That's not what I saw. That I guess that's the old school one. Maybe that was like the fans. And you didn't. You were when you beat somebody, you beat somebody. If somebody was giving you a good run, that's when you had to resort to different tactics to win. And that was the secret. That was you probably like for him anyway. But Harley strong as all get out. You got me over to Singapore over there and Malaysia over there. We spent 2 weeks over there, I think it was. And I worked with him on the first nights I come in over there. He said, hit me hard. But that was the whole deal. Yeah. That was, like Harley said, I was born too late. If I'd have been born earlier, things would have been different. You said you weren't just like me.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. In '89, you signed with the AWA, and you got a pretty decent push on TV, really, when they still had the contract with ESPN. How did your signing with the AWA come together?
Oh, that was set me up there. Okay. Me and Asato, we went out there. And I had a chance to work with the boy on TV, and they put me in there with the guys. They said I had to be guys who said I set the time that's what I did. And basically, I was a rough heel. Basically, is what I was. I wasn't a flamboyant, that type of deal. With my gym in St. Joe, I had my coat on wearing with Body Master Gym. That's what my name of my gym was there in St. Joe. And it was, it was, I had a good feeling out there. They tried it. But it was on the way. It just seemed like things were changing out there. The two guys up there were real strong.
Destruction Crew, Bloom and Enos.
Yeah, they were pretty strong. No doubt about that. And the weight.
Kenny Patera?
No. He went to Olympics. He was there for the United States.
The wrestler?
No,
Brand Ruggins?
No. This is the older one, about maybe a little older than me right now. Shame on me. He watched him when he was heavy, and he got down to about maybe 280, 290. He looked great. Had a hell of a body on him. He went his blonde hair on him and stuff. Shit, that's the one I can't remember right now.
Well, that's we can come back to that. You said you wrestled Greg on TV for sure. That's still out there on YouTube. How was he to deal with, because he was office at the time, correct?
He was. Yeah. It was trouble. He did what he wanted to do, and we both. It was a mutual deal, I liked it when up there when it was in its heyday up there in Minneapolis. The end long term was good money back then too. They did pay off well. Is what I heard.
You participated in the AWA World Tag Team Tournament with a man I've interviewed a number of times, a real up and comer at the time, illustrious Johnny Stewart, and he seemed to have good chemistry. Was there ever any talk of putting you guys together as a team on a more permanent basis?
There was. Don't think there was. Where was it? In,
I think that was Rochester, Minnesota, if I'm not mistaken. No?
no, there was, no, but they brought me up there. It's a long trip up there. I remember them up there too. But I was getting close to my thing, saying, what am I doing here? Why am I still back on the road?
Mm-hmm.
But it lost snow up there too.
Very brutal winters for sure.
Oh yeah.
Much like Canada.
Yeah. I can't remember enough about it there. It wasn't bad. No bad experience. I can't think of a bad experience I really had. I can tell you I get lucky. Nobody's really want to beat me up. No bad. No more than normal.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
DBS always liked you because we could be on the floor fighting him sometimes. People were close right there. Just lay him in big time.
Mm-hmm.
Boom, boom, boom. And that's what I expected back when that's what he did. Mm-hmm. That's what we wanted. You're going to see me out there. You're going to feel it too, though. It's going to make contact. So that's the way I thought. That's the way he did too. Good matches with DBS.
Yeah, absolutely.
My best time of my career was probably down there in Louisiana. Probably.
Mm-hmm.
That was probably the most memorable. It was great. It's horrible, but that was the best way. That was the best way.
You touched on it a minute ago, but who came up with this? They had you bleach your hair blonde, and I found it very entertaining, the whole timekeeper deal where you came out with the clock and set 2 minutes, blah blah blah, and beat the guy in that time frame.
I don't know why I did that.
Oh,
I really don't know. I should have left it alone. But I just said, what the hell was that? I'm getting old, I'm tired. I tried something different. But I looked pretty good with the blonde hair, though. Body was looking great.
Yeah, fit the persona for sure. Who came up with the timekeeper thing, though? Was that you?
No, Minnesota did. They come up with it. I did it up there, but that's what they named me. The timekeeper.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Well, it was certainly entertaining. Made for some compelling television.
Yeah. Because basically, I just like the normal. I really didn't get too much of a heel, but basically just abused them.
Mm-hmm.
That was my deal, and I guess they never said anything about it. But then I just wanted to quit right then. I was tired.
Mm-hmm.
I was tired.
In terms of your many feuds and rivalries, we've talked a lot about Bob Brown, Kirby, Mr. Wrestling 2, DiBiase, others. What stands out as the most memorable or challenging in your career, and why is that?
Wrestling 2. Johnny Walker. We were in Alexandria, and that was the main event. Him and me, and he did something, and I'm outside the ring, and I hit his leg, and I hit it down, his whole leg down real hard. And the railing there, not railing, but like a type deal, that I stopped it. And when I hit down like that, I hit down on that, and it made like a pop, and people went, whoa. I said, I should have done it again, but I did it again. But then the guy pulled a knife on me and showed his knife on the front row, opened it up and waved it at me.
Wow.
And,
wow.
I think the night that I first turned heel down in Louisiana, down in run on the same day, but outside of town, but down a little sorry. And that's when I wrestled. It was Jerry Stubbs.
Mm-hmm.
And we were having a babyface match, and that's when Hunter came up and gave me the knuckles and turned on him and hit him. And we pinned him 1, 2, 3. When I turned to leave the ring, they told me, which is, if you hear the people are completely quiet when you did this, don't stop. Don't argue with them. Don't do nothing. Just turn and keep walking. He said, that's the white heat. That's the one that you want.
Shock.
Yeah, the one that will get you killed real quick, though. Or beat up real bad. And that's what it was. St. Bernard. That's St. Bernard outside of New Orleans. And when I did that, walked out of there, oh my. All you heard was their breath. You heard
Mm-hmm.
shame on. I don't mean to discuss like that.
No worries. No worries.
What they were saying. That's what they were saying. And it was scary. You didn't stop. You didn't acknowledge that you even heard anything. You were the biggest bully you've ever seen. You were walking out there. You won. Boy. That was it. That's the most memorable. That's the most memorable, right? I tell you. That was the whitey. That's the one you always work for. That was the one that got you over. Yeah.
Yeah, it's hard to imagine that fans believed so much back in the day. I know Ole talked about being stabbed, and what you're describing there, it's just something that we're never going to see again.
No. I got stabbed and St. Joe wrestling Bob Brown. Come back in the ring, got the inside.
No way.
Oh, it's just, yeah. It was a different type. People, they wanted me to beat Brown real bad, though. And the fans would do whatever it took sometimes. And one time they got me when I turned heel and had Bob Brown. And one guy went and hit me in the mouth one time. I had both my hands in the guy's hair. And I tried to get my knee lift, and I couldn't get the state highway patrol. And before you was stepped in front, wouldn't let me finish to get it. And he said, you hit him. He says, so you'll never wrestle in this town ever again. But that was, I was getting that. The heat you want.
Mm-hmm.
My God. It's a little vicious sometimes.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Absolutely. You trained wrestlers like Dave Peterson and Doug Masters.
Yeah.
A guy I've had the pleasure of speaking to a number of times. What was your approach to teaching that next generation and passing on the knowledge? And what do you think of, this, I use the term cookie cutter approach, but this WWE style that seems to be, the only acceptable method. I think personally it breeds a lot of similar boring sort of work in the ring. Is that your understanding as well, or your opinion?
Yeah. Work with people like that. On he tried different stuff, and I remember him well. He went to school with me for the senior when he was a freshman. We used to beat him up in the wrestling deal up there on the other deal. He showed you that. That's a lot. Senior, he was a freshman at the time. Yeah, I liked him. I was when I heard that he got killed again, ran over by a 18-wheeler on his motorcycle.
Terrible.
Yeah.
Terrible.
Yeah. I went to the funeral up there. Yeah, broke my heart. Broke my heart. As a guy, he had the natural, and he was strong. He was school too. He beat the heck out of you. You paid dearly for what you did, Joe. That made it fun. That made it fun.
Do you?
I don't think there's no such thing as fun.
Yeah.
You got a little hard and they squeal.
Yeah.
It's like, yeah, I couldn't work like that. That wasn't me.
Well, as we've talked about, it's a completely different business now in the modern era, more like strictly a TV product. But this is a hard question to end on, but I'm going to ask you anyway. If you had to boil down or encapsulate your career into what you were most proud of, and B, if you could be remembered for something, what would you like the fans to remember you for? So a two-part question there, sir.
Oh, that's a good one. Remember me for I smile on my face. I wasn't always pissed off like most of them are. I kept the ring and I'd still be smiling even if I was doing the job. At least they remember me. He's there. One to remember. And the guy you work with is going to remember too. Thoughts about any of that. I wish it had got switched around. That was the most important thing. They blew that in New York. And you had the people where you wanted them, and that's where the people wanted to be. All this to it, and just people going to it and doing what they're doing now. I've got to believe in what I do. It's like it's not believable. It's just not worth it. I got to believe in myself. I couldn't do what they do now. So there's a couple of them that I believe in. I enjoy it. And but look, I'll get old.
Well,
Undertaker, I believe in his stuff. He was big and impressive. He kept coming back. He lasted as long as he did. He really is. Lucky man. Lucky man. And a lot of Lesnar, I mean, he's impressive. So was the other one, the football player. Shame on me. I never worked with any of those, but they were impressive.
Are you talking about Goldberg?
Goldberg, yeah. Very impressive. Things like that are not there no more.
Yeah, definitely not. And I think the fans that will take in this interview, part of our mission here on the channel is to educate the younger generations that didn't have the opportunity to watch you work live as to the business back then. And I think not to be one of those guys, but I am anyway. It certainly was better back then, and the more educated people can become to take in. YouTube is a wonderful tool. There's a lot of your stuff on YouTube too. Encourage the fans to check that out and see how different and actually better the business was back then.
Oh yeah, I watched the match on YouTube with it was my name. I said his name too. You see hit him so hard outside the ring.
Ted DiBiase.
On TV down there. My whole life. I swore I ripped his head off a couple of times. But it didn't. But it looked. It was unbelievable. That's what I was. I still like to watch that every once in a while.
Well, that's you've hit the nail. You've hit the nail on the head again. That's the difference. Believability, and I know kayfabe is absolutely dead for the most part, but certainly to enjoy the product as much as I did growing up. Kayfabe was a integral part, and we can't go back, but at least we can take in the product. Yes, remember. Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Mike,
They wouldn't like for me.
Absolutely. Do you have any presence in terms of website, social media, or anything so that fans could keep up on whatever you have going on, or are you not a social media guy, which is cool too?
I'm not a social media guy. This is the second time I've done a podcast for the third time. And Jerry's got a lot of stuff that he got one guy in Columbia, Missouri too. But I'm not really. I don't really go out to do the autographs. I did the 2 deals in New York. I did the deal going to breakfast deal down in Fort Lauderdale last January, something like that. Snowstorm here, and I went back 30 miles to the airport to get out there. That one I canceled out of that one. We're supposed to go to something I go, and then I'm not really wanting to go out. If you go out, you're very lucky.
Absolutely. Well, absolutely. I certainly want to shout out Jerry Oates again, a man that I interviewed recently, who put this together for providing the hookup for this interview. It certainly was one I've wanted to do for a long time, and I really appreciate you taking the time to do this today, sir.
You're welcome. I appreciate it. I appreciate you calling me and talking to me.
Well, we'll keep in touch and perhaps do it again in the future. But fans, that's it for this special edition of the Cheap Heat Productions podcast with the legendary Mike George. We will talk to you soon. Thank you for watching this video. Please give it a like if you enjoyed it. Be sure to follow us on all social media platforms at Cheap Heat Productions. Don't forget to hit the notification button and you won't miss any